We start the 6 o'clock hour of Sunrise with this live look from Washington, D.C. House Republicans got to it earlier this morning, trying to pass the Trump administration's big, beautiful bill before tomorrow's self-imposed deadline. We're going to have the latest from the nation's capital coming up. Plus,
I'm not going to pretend that our state budget resources can backfill any of this.
Some Oregon leaders are speaking out against the bill. Our Thomas Schultz details how the bill will impact Medicaid spending here in Oregon.
Also, of course, the 4th of July is tomorrow, so we're asking this question. Are your pets prepared for the fireworks? Or maybe we should say, are you preparing your pets for the fireworks? We spoke to the Oregon Humane Society, some really good tips about how to keep your animals calm when all those fireworks are going off tomorrow night. Sunrise at 6 o'clock starts right now.
Good Thursday morning. Thanks for waking up with us here on Sunrise. I'm Stephanie Domerod in for China this morning.
And I'm Drew Carney. It is July 4th Eve. We have Chris McGinnis and Rod Hill standing by. Rod, let's start with you and talking about that holiday forecast.
Yeah, we'll start with today. We'll get to the holiday forecast, of course, coming up. A beautiful day out there right now. Here's our state capitol building. It's some cloudiness over Salem. This has been one of the cloudier looks that we've had, but the clouds are not widespread. 57 degrees. Here's partly cloudy skies over downtown Portland. Kind of a pretty look at some brightness versus not. 54 is the number. This will be a day very similar to yesterday in terms of temperatures. Generally speaking, moving forward, mostly sunny, 67 at noon and a high temperature of 77. Much of the country would love our weather, Chris. Pretty nice.
I'm enjoying it. I think a lot of us are. All right, let's get you out to the freeway drive. I-5 from Clark County, zipping right along at a speed limit clip over the interstate bridge, so that's in good shape. Interstate 84, there's the Banfield. Again, that is flying along as well. Quick check at your drive times. Again, no major issues out there just yet. I do want to take you to Northwest Portland. This is a live shot right now from the 13,000 block of Northwest Skyline Boulevard. An overnight early morning house fire right now. TVF and R on the scene. We're working to get more details, and we'll have those in just a few minutes. But guys, I can tell you the traffic impact here is that Northwest Skyline Boulevard is essentially closed to traffic right now between Cornelius Pass and Rock Creek Boulevard. Rock Creek Boulevard is probably your best traffic solution to get around this.
Chris, we're going to stay with those pictures right here. That fire that Chris just talked about started just after 4 o'clock this morning on Northwest Skyline, just north of Cornelius Pass Road. Crews at this point are mopping up, but when firefighters first arrived at the scene, that home was fully engulfed in flames, and we don't know yet if anyone was inside or not. The fire also sparked a brush fire right next door.
Luckily, it's earlier in the season and it isn't that dry out, but obviously these fires, when it throws that many embers, can create a brush fire pretty quickly. And that does become a big concern, especially in this rural area with elevated topography.
Down power lines also made things difficult for firefighters this morning. They had to attack this fire from a distance at first while shuttling in water. Again, this part of Skyline Boulevard, as Chris just mentioned, is closed as firefighters continue to work at the scene.
Let's get back out to Washington, D.C. this morning for another look at the House floor as House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries continues speaking against President Trump's big, beautiful bill. You can hear him there now. It has been over 3 hours now he's been speaking. He's using the unlimited speaking time granted to the House leaders. Yeah,
Jeffries has been reading notes from people who could be affected by the bill, and after nearing the end of the first binder he was reading from, he picked up another. And he kept on reading this morning.
Yeah, earlier this morning, a group of Republican holdouts changed their votes to support the rule allowing the package to clear a key procedural hurdle. And that change then prompted Jeffries to begin this marathon speech we're seeing.
Yeah, House Republicans are hoping to get this bill passed and get it to President Trump's desk before tomorrow's July 4th holiday. NBC's Alice Bauer has more for us from Washington, D.C.
Passed the one big beautiful bill.
Republicans grinding push to pass President Trump's massive tax and spending bill hitting a hitch in the House, where GOP holdouts held up a procedural vote for hours overnight before finally voting to move ahead. House Speaker Mike Johnson fielding calls from President Trump all night.
And said, who else needs to have a discussion? I'm ready to get on the phone.
The president posting after midnight, what are the Republicans waiting for? What are you trying to prove? MAGA is not happy and it's costing you votes. Earlier in the day, he met with holdout Republicans at the White House looking to ease concerns over the bill's spending, adding substantially to the deficit.
I think we got some good information from the president.
Speaker Johnson saying he wants to avoid ping-ponging the bill with the Senate so the House can't make any changes, even though conservatives don't like Senate adjustments to clean energy credits and the Medicaid overhaul. While moderate Brian Fitzpatrick was ultimately the only Republican voting no on the procedural step, along with all Democrats, who slammed federal aid cuts projected to cost more than 11 million Americans their health insurance.
The largest cut to health care in our history, the largest transfer of wealth from working families to the billionaire class.
The extraordinary things in this bill are so important for the American people.
GOP leaders adamant the bill's key components, extending the Trump tax cuts while funding defense and deportations. And the president, who wants it all done, will prove too popular for Republicans to turn down. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
We've heard plenty of thoughts about the bill here locally, so Sunrise reporter Thomas Schultz is covering that angle for us in downtown Portland. Thomas, you have your finger on the pulse of the people. What are they saying?
Well, Drew, a lot of people are speaking across the Portland metro area. There was a rally in Beaverton yesterday where people were speaking back against this bill. Oregon Democratic lawmakers are also expressing their frustration with this bill in Washington. Here's a little bit of what they had to say.
It will affect all of us. I have a developmentally delayed brother in Pennsylvania who would lose his Medicare coverage.
What this means in Oregon, 1.4 million people rely on the Oregon health plan. All of these people could be impacted, and up to almost 200,000 Oregonians could lose their health care entirely.
And Oregon Democratic leaders say the state could see a $23 billion drop in federal Medicaid spending over the next 10 years. Governor Tina Kotek says the state budget doesn't have the resources to make up for this possible change. Nationally, the Congressional Budget Office says nearly 12 million Americans could lose their insurance by 2034 if this bill passes, though congressional Republicans say the bill will strengthen Medicaid and eliminate fraud and waste while cutting taxes for all Americans.
Make sure people's taxes don't go up tomorrow, the next day, forever.
Now, if this bill does pass, it could limit funding to states, of course, and also have big implications for states that offer Medicaid funding to immigrants. Those states could see their funding limited by the federal government.
Thomas, when could we expect a vote on this bill?
Well, Stephanie, originally House Speaker Mike Johnson said that it would come around 5:30 our time. That didn't happen because, as we just saw a couple of minutes ago, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has been speaking out against this in D.C. for about 3 hours now. Still, progress seemingly is coming. Here's a bit of what Majority Leader Mike Johnson had to say earlier this morning about that.
Depends on how long the Democrat leader's magic minute goes, but I suspect it won't drag on long. We'll be voting, I think, by early morning.
And he went on to say that he'll be voting by the time people are waking up to have their morning coffee. Of course, we'll bring you all the updates once we hear more about them. Guys.
All right, Thomas Schultz live for us this morning there in downtown Portland. Meanwhile, Governor Kotek is taking executive action to ban cell phones in schools all across the state after local lawmakers failed to pass a bill that would also cover that issue. Her order requires school districts come up with a policy by the end of October and implement those policies by the start of January. The governor says requiring students' phones to be off and away for the entire school day will protect both student mental health and also help boost academic success.
We get to control the school environment to some degree. Research is also saying that students aren't focused on learning because of the devices that they have. We as adults have to do something.
There will be some exceptions to the governor's executive order. That includes exceptions for students with medical needs and students with disabilities.
New details this morning about the hundreds of layoffs at ODOT after state lawmakers failed to pass a transportation bill. Without a funding change, ODOT faces a more than $300 million shortfall and says it cannot continue core operations and maintenance at its current levels. Hundreds of employees are expected to be laid off this month. In an email sent to staff last weekend, the agency's director wrote, quote, "This is the hardest message I've ever had to send in my career. I know this is shocking, scary, and frustrating for every single one of you. It is for me too. This This reduction is short-sighted and fails to account for the cost of inaction. It's sure to cost the state more in the long run as our assets deteriorate, end quote. Meantime, the union that represents some ODOT workers says its members may be able to find other jobs.
If your position is slated to be eliminated, but another position that you also could do in the same region is not slated to be eliminated, you could have that position.
For example, on my crew, we could have someone in a shop next to us, say they close that crew down. Those people with a lot of seniority could choose to come to my shop and bump people that they have more seniority, more tenure than.
ODOT estimates 600 to 700 workers will be let go by the end of this month. Meantime, Microsoft just announced another round of huge layoffs. By the end of August, more than 9,000 workers will lose their jobs, including 830 employees in Washington. This is the second round of layoffs in recent months. Back in May, Microsoft laid off 6,000 workers company-wide.
We're tracking 3 new wildfires burning in central and eastern Oregon that were all spotted in the past 24 hours.
Now they're burning in Umatilla, Gillum, and Wasco counties. The largest one is the Cold Springs fire burning in Umatilla, not far from Hermiston.
Yeah, that one started around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. The Umatilla County Sheriff's Office said yesterday it had already burned an estimated 1,000 acres, and it's also reportedly burned at least one home. The good news this morning is that as of 10 o'clock last night, all level 3 go now evacuation orders had been lowered to either level 1 or level 2. The state fire marshal called in extra crews as well, including Portland area firefighters from Washington and Clackamas counties. And there is a Red Cross shelter set up this morning at the Eastern Oregon Trade and Event Center in Hermiston.
To the west in Gillum County, a wildfire burning there north of I-84 near Arlington shut down the freeway for several hours yesterday. The highway has since reopened, and evacuation orders, thankfully, have also been canceled.
Level 1 and 2 evacuation orders are still in place in Wasco County because of the Winslow Road fire. Those orders cover a wide area south of Dufur near the ghost town of Friend. Firefighters say they stopped the fire's forward progress, but it's still not clear how many acres have already burned, and the cause of this fire remains under investigation.
Of course, weather conditions always play a role when it comes to fires, so it's nice to see things cool down at least a little bit.
Yeah, you know, we had the heat advisories back on Monday and Tuesday for a good chunk of at least the Columbia Basin, from the Dalles out toward Hermiston and Pendleton. All of that heat has moved on, and we've got now at least a few days of pretty comfortable temperatures by local standards and not a lot of wind by local standards. So we're all dry out there this morning. This is a temperature projection. If anything, this particular model might be a little too warm, but even if it is only 92 in Arlington and if it makes it to 89 in Pendleton, by local standards, that's a pretty comfortable day out that direction. And the only wind of note being picked up are breezes in the gorge itself out through the Dalles and Wasco County. Could be some gusts approaching 30 miles per hour. This shows calming winds to about 15 by the time you get out into Hermiston, and similar 15-mile-per-hour winds expected from the north in central Oregon. So again, by local standards, not that bad. Pretty comfortable stuff, no extreme wind. The area that's under a red flag warning for conditions to be more prone for fires that start to spread is down in south central and southeastern Oregon today. And this is a zone where there could be, we think there will be, more thunderstorm development later this afternoon. Again, the fear or thought there is lightning can produce new fire starts. So we'll be watching that. Here in Portland, it's just a gorgeous day. We're partly cloudy. In fact, there you see the sun, there you see the clouds. Partly cloudy. 54 degrees is the early morning number. Temperatures are comfortable out the door this morning for sure. 52 up in Kelso. The Dow is one of the warmer spots at 60. It's 48 this morning out in Baker City. Again, everybody's dry. No weather-related issues at all at this hour. Here's the map later today. A mix of 70s up and down I-5 and 80s out to the east and 60s at the coast. That thunderstorm threat in southeastern Oregon. Weekend numbers, 77 today, 75 tomorrow on the 4th of July, 79 Saturday, 83 on Sunday. We'll be accepting thank you cards for the pleasant weather through the end of this month.
I was going to say, we don't like to blame the weatherman when the weather's bad, but in this case, I'm going to say thanks, Rob.
Yeah, send us a thank you card. Come on.